Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Welcome to the breakdown. It's Sunday night. Let's talk about it all in detail as the Cardiff City rode their luck a little bit. But sometimes you've got to do that. We'll talk about maybe some tactical tweaks that need doing. We need to talk about Gabriel Osho. We'll talk about everything. But ultimately, look, it's about 3 points. It's about being top of the league, and it's about winning football matches a game at a time. This young side, there's players which are going to be up and down. I think Joel Colwell's a bit of an example of that, even though I don't think he was terrible. I think he was quite effective when he was in the right position defensively, but he's so high up that he needs to drop in a little bit to receive the ball. I thought David Turnbull looks much better as a 6. Even though I'm not fully convinced by him, I think as a 6, he moved the ball a lot quicker. He played more off a couple of touches rather than 5 or 6 and slowing things down. So let's kind of go in detail initially. So I've because I've been so busy, it's been an incredibly long couple of days. I've only rewatched the first half, so I'm going off, obviously, watching it in the stadium and then the rewatch of the first half. The first half, I thought Chambers and Osho were a bit of an issue in terms of in possession. The tempo was so slow. And one of the 1 or 2 times that we did pick up the tempo, we actually cut through Reading and created chances, but it was just too slow. Now, I think Callum Chambers spent a lot of his time covering for Osho in terms of his positioning and giving the ball away and stuff like that. I personally, I think Osho is made to be a number 6. I really do. Love, can you take the cats, please? Gypsy's being noisy. I think Gabriel Osho as a 6 in this side would be a bit of a game changer for us. I think he clearly wants to carry the ball. He's got a decent passing range when he's not passing back to the keeper. And I think he wants to be so aggressive that I think he could be quite beneficial, and his pace and his athleticism could benefit the team. However, Callum Chambers, I thought, was really good in the second half, particularly. He looked a lot more settled when Will Fish was alongside him, who we'll get to. But I thought Callum Chambers in the second half, his decision-making was excellent. When to hold on to the ball, when to pass it, and when to just get rid. First half, him and Osho, they slowed everything down. And Amari Kellyman was on our side in the first half, and he was in so much space. And we just either didn't switch it to him, or we took too many touches. We slowed it down. We went too slow to switch it. And I got to be honest, Kellyman, I think I understand why people aren't convinced by him. But I think you could see he's getting fitter. You could see he's getting sharper. The goal will do him wonders for his confidence. And I think gradually he's looking a little bit more direct when he gets the ball. And I think once he gets the belief and the fitness to just get the ball and go at the fullback, I think that is when we'll see the best of him, particularly if he's got Kipakio on that side. On Kipakio, I thought he was really, really good yesterday. I thought defensively in the first half, he covered up for Osho. He covered up for Joel being a bit too far forward. And he really did a good job and used his body well. He's adjusted his physicality a little bit, so he knows he's not got the physical strength sometimes to go in for a duel. So he'll use his body to roll the winger and then pick up the ball. You know, he's going to, because of the nature of the way he plays and the way the manager wants to play, there's going to be times where people read passes and cut it out and stuff. And then the second half, you inject a little bit of pace. And we did this against Leyton Orient, 20 minutes where you're moving the ball quick, you're using pace in the wide areas, and we just cut through Reading. And in the first half, we did it on the left-hand side with, I think it was Willock and Ruben. Ruben gets in behind, he sort of cuts it back to Salic, and Salic probably should score, but it's one of those where you move the ball quickly, make runs in behind, and we look good. Now, I think Reading, similar to Leyton Orient, similar to Bradford, have worked out a way of playing against us. And I think many other teams will work that out too. I thought it was quite clear that we were going to try and go a little bit more direct at times to Salic, which I don't have a problem with because I think you need to vary it up. I would like to see it done quicker, though. So many times we let other teams get into position and then send it, or then switch it, or then move it, and it's a problem. I mentioned a tactical tweak that I would like to see. For me, so first and foremost, I think most people agree Turnbull and Wintle can't play together as a two. They're just not mobile enough. They don't move the ball quick enough, etc. I think Joel Colwell is probably the guy, generally, but he is young and it's his first full season for Cardiff, and he's gonna look good in games. He's gonna affect it in games more offensively, defensively. You can never doubt his application and his work rate, but I think he's too high. I don't think he needs to be alongside, like in line with Ruben all the time. I think his underlaps when Omari Kellyman or the winger sort of gets the ball good, that's a real tool. But I think he needs to time them a little bit. And we're so open in the midfield. And because, Wintle's done an exceptional job this season, I'm glad he got a rest. But him and Turnbull are not the most mobile, not quickest, not the most athletic. So you're asking one person to cover a lot of space when we lose the ball because Ruben and Joel are so high up. And I think, sometimes you can get away with it, or we got away with it a little bit earlier in the season because you had either Dylan Lawler push up into the midfield a bit more alongside the number 6, so Wintle, or Joel Bagan, and to a lesser extent Kipakia would sort of invert into the middle. However, what we've seen as the season goes on is Joel Bagan is doing more overlapping and trying to get in behind to put crosses in. And it's leaving that single midfielder. And I think that was a big issue last year. And I would say it's a tactical tweak that I would like to see the manager do. However, on the manager, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for his impact on the game when we're losing in both the Leyton Orient and in this game. He made positive substitutions. He changed the shape. He puts Ruben deeper. And then he goes for it. And I thought his changes, Isaac Davis immediately had an impact. They came out from half time and straight away we were moving the ball quicker. Straight away, Omari Kellyman gets the ball and he, beats his man and he gets a shot off. Should the keeper save it? Yeah, probably. Their keeper, by the way, is the worst keeper I've seen come to Cardiff. Honestly, dreadful. And you could see it from the opening few minutes. And it's disappointing that we didn't test him more. I think I understand why the crowd wants people to shoot more. And I sometimes think we could pull a trigger. But I also think if, like, for instance, in the first half, Joel Colwell sort of cut inside and it's on his left foot and it's 35 yards out. The chances of him hitting a 35-yarder with his wrong foot are slim, really. Now, Ruben probably shoots from there, but for me, you don't want to be taking pot shots, although they obviously score from one which swerves and catches Trot out. And on Trot, what a signing. We have to get promoted just to keep him, is my, what a keeper he is. Kept us in the game. A couple of saves in the second half were absolutely world class. Absolutely world class. There was one, I know in the highlights it shows the one where it kind of breaks and they hit it inside the box. But there's one which was about a minute or two before that, where it's like a bit of a scramble and it's a snapshot and he dives down to his right and it's low. And oh my word, I was like right diagonal behind the shooter. And what a save. The one from Osho's pass into the striker, Jesus, I don't know what he was thinking. And he kind of holds his hands up, Osho does, as if to say, oh, why aren't you there? It's a hospital pass. It's underhit. It isn't to anyone. The striker's thinking, goal. He thinks he scored. And Trot is so quick off his line, makes himself big. It's another phenomenal save. Osho as a centre-back at the moment is a problem. He may come good. He might. But in the league, it is my opinion that we should have, wherever possible, we should be going with Bagan, Lawler and Fish with Capaccio where possible, and keep that back five as solid, because I think that's our best back four, as proven by the fact that at the start of the season we didn't concede a goal through open play for a long time. We had 100% home record. We were solid defensively, and we looked calm and composed, and we didn't look like conceding. The only goal we did concede from open play was in the cup, and that was when Chambers slips. So it's kind of, we didn't need to do that tinkering. And last year, we saw that tinkering and it cost us. Having a settled back four, particularly as centre-backs, I think is really important. Really important. So Dylan Lawler, I think, is expected back next game. Great. I know, he's expected back next game. So excellent news. Brian Barry Murphy has to find a way to integrate Alex Robertson. I didn't expect him to play this game because of the traveling he had kind of done to America for the Australia team. I didn't expect him to feature. But we have to find a way to integrate him back into the side, because one, it's like a new signing, because we've got to, mid to late October, he hasn't featured. And it's an area where I think he can improve us. He really is. Whether he plays as a 6 or an 8, I think he improves us. He's got legs. He's got a technical ability. He can carry the ball. He can link up play. He's got a bit of a streak about him where, he's got he'll compete. So I do think the manager's got to find a way to make that happen, make that work. I'm hoping that what he's doing is a masterstroke, and that when Alex comes back in, he's angry and motivated and wants to prove the manager wrong and goes on a bit of a run of form. I really hope that's the case. Just flipping back to the back four before I just have a look at some of the comments. Will Fish. I said to my son in the first half, about 20 minutes in, I was just like, Will Fish must be looking at it and just going, how am I not starting these games? As a bona fide out-and-out defender, he's been far and away our best defender. He's a real hybrid of like an old school defender, wins headers, wins duels, likes to go in tight and the challenges. But he's also got a bit of a modern day around him. He's comfortable on the ball, particularly long passing. But that clearance off the line, in my opinion, again, I'll use the term world class. Like, it is quality. And the reason it's so good is when that ball breaks to the guy and they dummy it and it goes to the guy in the back post, everybody in that defense thinks it's a goal unless Trott saves it. They've all stopped. They've all given up the ghost. Will Fish is like, no, absolutely not. I will be back on that line. And I think if it had been waist height, he would have handballed it. He was keeping that ball out no matter what. And it's a great block, sort of sticks a leg out. But it's the mentality to keep that ball out and win that football match. That is what we've got to have. And I think you could argue that as a team led by the manager, the last 2 games, like, there's not a load of problems, but there's problems in certain aspects of the structure, the shape, whatever, certain individual performances. There's issues. But against Leyton Orient and against Reading yesterday, the mentality was just, we found a way to win. And that does deserve credit. I saw someone say in the comments, yes, I think it was Marcus said in the comments on the show last night, that I think Reece must have said something along the lines of, good teams, they play badly, but find a way to win. And I think the comment was along the lines of, no, Trott found a way for us to win. But it wasn't just Trott. There was, several players in the second half stepped up and took responsibility. I saw Ruben, again, taking a load of criticism on social media. But, like, first half, he does give the ball away a couple of times. But he's looking for runners and they're just not there. No one's making a run for him, and he's trying to force it then. Second half, everything we did went through him. Dictating the play, carrying the ball when needs be, working hard. I just think he's a real linchpin in the side. Probably not like his best game creatively and stuff like that, but he put a shift in and he did a job. Salic, I thought, my son said, Salic should have come off when Robinson come on. And I said, no, Salic has been good. He's battling and he's working and he's pressing and he's running the channels and he doesn't always get the ball, but he didn't let his head drop, didn't lose his head, never gets a free kick, ever. Breathed on a defender and he gets penalised. But he kept going and he kept going. Misses the chance in the first half. He should probably score. And then, second half, that is it's on a plate for him a little bit, but it's a great finish. So really top finish, and he deserved that goal for the sheer work rate. And then it was fascinating to see. So they take out the manager takes off Kean Ashford after 10 minutes of coming on, which I think is a bit harsh. And I wondered if he had a knock, but he jogs off. And in fairness to Kean, he didn't have a sulk. He didn't kick off. He just took it, sat down. He'd have been very disappointed, very upset by it. No one wants to be the subbed. But tactically, it was really interesting because I'd assumed Salic would come off and then, NG would come on and we'd go 5 at the back. No problem with that. But Salic ended up playing in the midfield, really, as a sort of 10. And it was Robinson that played forward. So I didn't really understand that. Maybe they wanted Salic's defense, his height defensively, which is fine. But I thought maybe we could have done with Robinson dropping in, who's obviously come on, so he's going to be a bit fresher. Gives you a bit more legs, links up the play well, and then try and aim for Salic up top, and he can come back for set pieces. But yeah, I fell for Kean, but sometimes you've got to take one for the team, unfortunately. A couple of players for Reading who I thought stuck out. I thought Charlie Savage was good, and I thought Lewis Wing was really impressive. But we did a good job of keeping Jack Marriott quiet. Someone who's, 5 and 5 he had scored. And we got Paddy O'Connor was good as well when we did a good job of, getting around him, and Salic and him had a real battle. But let's have a look what you guys are saying. I think I've talked 20 minutes, isn't it? Last night went really well. Thank you for asking. And again, thank you so much to Rider Rangers for inviting me to host that and interview Nev and speak to Tom Lockyer. It's a real privilege for me, and I still lost on me like the opportunity to do something like that, which is obviously not my event and stuff like that. So I appreciate you. JT says the fans are still pretty negative despite being top. How would they handle being bottom half like Luton and Plymouth? It's a good shout, mate. Top of the league at the end of the day. It's a long, brutal season, and if you'd given me top of the league with a couple of ropey performances, I'd have taken it all day long in the summer. There's a load of positives to take. I think, we're going to be a bit up and down now and again. But, look, top of the league. And we're finding a way to win. At the end of the day, Nathan Trott's job is to keep the ball out of the net. And he's doing it very, very well. Fair play to Brian Barry Murphy and his analysts, etc., for getting him in. Because it looks an inspired signing at the moment. JT also says, we just need to take it one game at a time, not worry about clean sheet records or points records. Exactly that, mate. Just win football matches. Just go. Just one at a time. Just keep winning. Just churn them out. Malky Mackay style. 1-0, 2-1, whatever. If you go behind, find a way. When we play at pace and when we have the tempo in possession, we do look a different animal. I do think we just need to tweak the midfield shape a little bit just to give us a bit more security in the transition, but also on the ball, like receiving the ball. Sometimes we've got 5 across the front. We need someone to drop in and play it around the corner or get the ball and face up the defence. And Joel's good at that. Paul says, great to my bones hearing booing where there's players of the team. Is that acceptable? What's wrong with people? We're a young side and we're top of the league. Boo that. Yeah, it's frustrating, mate. I get a bit frustrated when people booed because we're passing the ball and keeping the ball as if like that's a bad thing. You know, I understand sometimes, but when the intensity or you're moving it a bit slowly. But there's a reason we keep the ball and we shift it from one side to the other because you're moving the opposition out of position to then switch to play or play it between the lines. However, we definitely look a different team when you've got Will Fish doing the diagonal passes and Dylan Lawler playing the ball into the midfield and breaking those lines. Halftime Oranges says maybe Lady Luck's on our season this time after all. Certainly not with the referees, mate. They just, like Salic was rugby tackled at one point yesterday from the back and the ref just went, oh, they're both doing it. And it's like, well, they're not both doing it, are they? They might be both having a grab at a shirt, but the guy's just rugby tackled him in the back. But yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? Corey says, Paul, I agree. I think the booing would just make it worse. They did it versus Newport too. It's just going to make the players more negative. Yeah, these are young players. And if you want them to express themselves and play the attacking football that we saw at the start of the season, I don't think it's a coincidence that they were doing that when the crowd was bouncing and playing and everyone's behind them and it's a positive feeling because they're relaxed and then they express themselves and they play. Because I don't think work rate is an issue whatsoever. Yeah, Corey says, I think the greatest thing about being promoted would be that we could buy Trott. Yeah, it's like talk about the icing on the cake. Be gutted if we can't sign him. Gotta be honest. Evan James says it can't keep going on like this or like that, can it? Mick McCarthy, it can. Just got to win matches. Got to win matches. Sue agreeing there with the other comments about the booing. Halftime Orange says, I think we're going to have a stiff competition for Trott's signature after this season. He'll be on every scouts report in Europe. I think, mate, we have an obligation to buy him if we get promoted. I think. Bear with me, my throat. I can feel my voice going already. Yeah, Corey says, anyone listen to their manager, Noel Hunt, said they made Trott look good when he wasn't a keeper that ain't that good. Mate, I don't know what he was on about. Nathan Trott is far and away the best keeper in this league. The only one that comes close is Pereira from Reading, who's obviously out at the moment. Evening, Gavin. Corey says, next time Osher should play is the game v Peterborough in the Cup and Arsenal under-21s. I would like to see him given a go in the 6 in one of those games. I really would, just to see if it makes a difference, because I do think he's got the skill set for it. And Paul says, Wintle injured or being rested? I think he's rested, mate. I don't think he's injured because he was on the bench and he was ready to come on at one point. And Paul also says he thinks that Joel plays better alongside him. Don't think Joel and Turnbull works. I think it's the first time they've played together as a two, so you have to give it time. As I say, I thought Turnbull was much improved in the 6. I would say Joel's bound to play a bit better alongside Wintle because Wintle's the experienced head in that middle of the park and he talks a lot. So it's understandable. I wouldn't be against seeing Turnbull in there again at times. D1 says, I agree with Paul. Why boo your own players is completely counterproductive. It makes no sense, mate, does it? Yeah, Osho was good in the air, James. You're right there, James, saying that Osho was good in the air, especially off opponents' goal kicks. He was, mate, but to me, Will Fish should be starting. Honestly, I unless he had some sort of fitness injury, but I mean, he can't have been injured because he come on half time. So, yeah, it's one of them. Sue says Osho's confidence is at an all-time lows and our fans are not helping matters. Disgraceful yesterday. BBM will have to back him up in the cups. Are ideal for that. Yeah, look, I think it's tricky because he's made that same mistake 3 times now. He did it against Leyton Orient. They score. In the second half against Leyton Orient, he got tackled when he was the last defender on the ball, where he was trying to carry it, and he was the only defender sort of there, but he got away with it because of Trot. And then he did it again yesterday, where he just passes it to it was like he was setting him up for a shooting drill. Just, boom. It's a concentration thing. I really like that Osho plays with a smile on his face. I admire it because he is enjoying the fact that he's a professional footballer. But when you make those type of mistakes, and you've made a few of them, I can understand why there's a bit of frustration from fans when you see him kind of smiling after it. But I just think it's his personality. Take him out of firing line in the league from a centre-back point of view. And I think I still think he'll come good. I think he's a very good player. I just think he hasn't started great. When you've got, like Barry says there, he's good in the air, but he's making too many errors. And that's the problem. He's making errors which are could cost us, have cost us. And we've got to cut those errors out. And the problem you've got is, as fans and people watching media, whatever, we have the window at the start of the season where you look at it and you see the back four, where we had a consistent back four with certain personnel, and they were composed, they were good, they were physical, they were good on the ball, they were comfortable, and it worked. And then when we've chopped and changed and brought in other players, you've got to bring him in because he's your big money signing. That's where mistakes have started creeping in. Not just him. Chambers made a mistake in the cup and that, but in fairness to Callum Chambers, he came out of the side and then he came back, and he's come back much better generally. I would have just liked to see him move the ball a little bit quicker yesterday in the first half. He was a big culprit for that. Too slow. But his decision-making and his covering of his teammates was very good. With Graham says, with cost of living, I can understand the boos. It's up to the players to lift the crowd. We may be top on one yesterday, but my God, carry on like this and we're going to get a pasting, not give one. I think it's little tweaks. I don't think it's anything drastic. I think we need to play our best back four, and we need to make a little tweak in the midfield just to make us a little bit less open. But that's all. I don't think it's, like you got to tear it all up and start again, anything like that. And I give the manager a lot of credit for impacting the game 2 games in a row. Because managers were ultimately judged on their selections and then impacting the game during the game, which is not always easy to do because you're so involved in the game. That's when he needs his coaches and his analysts who are watching on the screen to be able to give him information in real time and tell him, what's what. And remember, like Corey says there, as much as I ain't liking him, he did get man of the match versus Wigan, and once he settles, he'll be better. Yeah, he's shown what he can do, mate, 100%. But at the moment, I think it'd be the right decision to take him out. The one thing which really disappointed me yesterday was I didn't think we created enough. Because I thought their keeper was terrible. They're down the bottom. And I thought our tempo, particularly in the first sort of half, wasn't good enough with the ball. We weren't intense enough. We weren't moving it quickly enough. We didn't have the rotations off the ball, and we didn't have the runners. If we can do that, because that's what we were doing at the start of the season, which worked, but you've got to also understand, like tactically, teams they've got more and more footage of us to watch as the season goes on, and they will have a game plan if they've got anything about them. And I thought Reading's game plan was very good. In the first half, they were very direct and they pressed high. So they got the ball up at our end and then they pressed in numbers. We have to be able to then play over their press and then play. And we just didn't do it because we didn't have the midfield or perhaps options were a bit high to get through their press effectively enough. But that's, again, it's up to the manager. Paul says Fisher's got a knee issue. Osho only trained Thursday from a knock. Dylan, we know, injured since the first World call-up. The thing with, I know Martin, who watches, is furious because Dylan's injury issue with his groin came from even playing in the Exeter game, which he should have never played. That was a game he should have been rested. And he's had an injury niggle since then. But he is fit. He only trained once last week. He's fit now. And he's had the all clear and stuff. So he will be available properly from the next game. And as Barry says there, Kipakiao was awesome. Trot 2, Fish when he came on. Kipakiao, I thought, was probably our best outfield player overall. I thought he was excellent. I think someone mentioned him again about his positioning, but all the improvements, and I'll get to that in a minute. You've just got to play each game as it comes. Different teams will present different challenges. Just because the team's bottom of the league or down the bottom doesn't mean it'll be a walkover. We might end up having more joy against the likes of a Plymouth, who will try and be quite expansive in the way they play, because maybe that suits us a little bit better. So I can, we've got to just win. Just find a way to win. Sue says, on a different subject, Salic's pitch interview shows he's starting to enjoy his game again. He's scoring, he's smiling, and I think he's ready to go on a scoring run. I think he's accepting he's going to be manhandled. Yeah, you could see it was a shock to the system at the beginning of the season. He's just flabbergasted that he wasn't getting the free kicks, and now I think he's just giving as good as he gets. And I think, I thought he's been in pretty good form, other than the Newport game. Thought he was poor, but apart from that, I think he's been doing quite well, and his link-up play is getting better. So yeah, I'm excited for it. Martin's makes a great point, which I actually bring up in the 5 things, which is out tomorrow. I just didn't have time to sort it today. I apologize. But he says, I thought Wings' positioning was in the midfield was key to stopping Reading stopping our play through the middle. He led the press, forced mistakes, and then our passing suffered. 100%, mate. They were very, very clever with how they did it. They got the ball up our end, and then he led the press with Marriott and I forgot the other guy's name. Richie and Lane. They sort of closed the passing lanes. And then you had sort of Doyle and Charlie Savage would sit in the middle. It was very well structured. And in fairness to Noel Hunt, I thought he did a real good job. But once we scored one, they had to change. And then it became a bit more like a basketball game the last 20 minutes, which I called in a preview. I said there would be a period in this game where it was just basketball up and down. And luckily, we've got one of the best keepers in the league, which meant that we stayed in it. Yeah, Hunt is just sour grapes, isn't it? Also, a few people said to me, came and saw me yesterday at the game and said hello. Only Reese Delve introduced himself by name, so shout out to Reese. But also shout out to everyone else who said hello. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the kind words. There was a lovely lady who was with a child who stopped, and she just said such nice words. Reese called me a genius, which I thought was a bit like over the top, but fair enough. Take that all day. And also shout out to Mr. Barrett, who was the first person to receive his Cardiff City World football shirt. I'm trying to work out the shipping for all them now, because obviously I'm gonna have to pay for the shipping for all those shirts. So I'm trying to work it out, but I've got them. If you live in Cardiff, I will deliver it to you. If you live sort of Philly or on the outskirts of Cardiff, I will deliver it to you. But you've got to hit me up and tell me, whether that's CardiffCityWorld@gmail.com or on social media. I will get them to you as quick as I can. But yeah, I'm just trying to work out the shipping size of it. And obviously with the Mozza event this week, it's busy, stressful week. So if you can get in touch with me, it would really help me out. And if you're going to the Mozza event and you've ordered one and you want, I can give it to you there as well. Yeah, Lewis makes a good point. The first half yesterday reminded me of last season. Slow build up, no ideas. Just hope they don't bring back their players when we move it quick. We tear teams apart. 100%, mate. The tempo was wrong. I think you need a little tweak in the shape, as I say, Joel, just a bit deeper. It doesn't have to come all the way back, just a little bit deeper, because it drags their midfielder or their centre-back out of position, and it gives an option to bounce a pass off him and work it to the fullback, to the winger, etc. And if he's able to turn, he can carry the ball, and it's dangerous. So, I'm very in agreement with that, mate. So Geraint says, Ruben back to his lethargic best, being poor these past field games. Midfield, our problem, doesn't take any sort of pressure off the defence. So I completely disagree with you about Ruben, mate. He looks tired towards the end of the game, but the amount of sprinting and running that he does, because he's expected to lead the press, he's expected to make everything happen and receive the ball, he's expected to be the linchpin. Now, I agree with you. He probably hasn't got the same energy levels that he had in the first few games, because I believe he's tired. But if you go back and watch the second half, even when he drops deep, everything starts with him. Everything starts with him. And people will criticize, but he's a big, big part of us getting back into these games. Now, for me, we need to give him help. And that's why I think we're cutting our nose off to spite our face when we've got to fit Alex Robertson and not putting him in the squad. And if you're not going to pick him, get him a Fico on the bench, because you need some sort of legs in the midfield to give Ruben. We want Ruben around the edge of the box, picking up the ball in pockets and making things happen or get a shot off, etc. But he's having to kind of do a bit of everything, and that's not really what we want him to do. Ryan says, Turnbull does not suit BBM ball, I'm afraid. I thought he was better yesterday because the nature of the role meant he was playing off 1-2 touches, which meant he was forced to move the ball quicker, which in turn, I think that's when you'll see a better version of him. He's clearly a good technical footballer, but I don't think he's got the legs to be the 8 that Brian Barry Murphy wants. And I remain to be fully convinced as a 6. But I thought he was better. So what I thought Turnbull did well yesterday was, I thought passing forward, he was pretty good, like little 2-touch, linking up the play, stuff like that. But when it came to sweeping up and then recycling the ball quickly to your fullback and then going across and moving the ball quick when teams are out of position, that was when he wanted those extra touches, and then he slowed it down and it became more of an issue. Paul says, Capaccio and Isaac linked up really well, and the one and only time we get him behind, they produced a goal for Salich. We have to get behind teams more. So Isaac is a fascinating one, right? And I have been having this argument with my son over the last few days. So he thinks, even though he really rates Isaac, he thinks Isaac's got to come off the bench, because he says when he starts, he's not as effective. When he comes on against a tired fullback, he's direct, he's pacey, and he's very much opens the game up. And it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I think his form probably deserves to start. Again, I know he started against Leyton Orient and he was a bit tense, but I think his form deserves another start. I think he's been playing well. And we're obviously managing his fitness to a greater or lesser degree. But again, I thought he was really good. He's direct, he works hard. And a couple of times, Capaccio went around the outside of Kellyman in the first half and overhit pass and stuff. But I also thought Kellyman got a bit frustrated in the first half with not getting the ball, because he was in acres of space. And if we could have got it out to him quicker and got it to the wingers quicker, I think we would have seen us getting behind a little bit more in the first half. But we were just too slow moving the ball. Lewis says, thought Chambers was really good defensively yesterday. I thought he was decent defensively first half, but too slow on the ball. Second half, I thought he was really good defensively, and I thought his decision-making was much better. Sometimes he moved the ball quick, sometimes he took it into midfield, sometimes he just got rid of it. I like that, because that shows that he's learning. Now, I think part of that problem was that in the first half, he was very aware, especially after the back pass. He was very aware of Osho making an error. So he was almost like getting ready to cover him, and maybe he was a bit slow on the push out then. But I thought he looked better with Fish. So Sue says, Fish is solid, nothing fancy, gets on with his job, our best centre-back in my opinion. I think he's our best out-and-out defender. In my opinion, Dylan Lawler is still our best centre-back. But I think he's our best out-and-out defender. I think Fish has been excellent this season. And you know what as well, right? I know this is like random, but I go back to last season. For the first half of the whole season, why in the God's name was Will Fish not playing last year? I said it a lot last year. Barry says Fish was class, our best defender. Great. Ryan says, Will Fish attitude. He could have sulked. He rolled his sleeves up. Come on, with the team under pressure. And he helped us, helped bail us out. Class player. Yeah, he's got a tremendous attitude. And I think I've said before, people I've spoken to at the club, they say like his in training, his attitude is absolutely top notch every single day. A couple of people saying about Chambers. Yeah, I thought he was good, mate. I thought first half, I just want to see him move the ball quicker. My frustration with Chambers on the ball is he's a good passer of the ball. He can do the diagonals, but he can break lines and he can take the ball out as well. I just would like to see him sometimes be quicker. That's all. That's my only criticism of him on the ball. Like his ability on the ball is pretty good. He sometimes has got a habit of when he's the last defender on the ball, he wants to bring it forward into midfield then, which is obviously a massive risk because if he does get caught with it, there's no one behind him. But, that's nitpicking, really. Corey says, with Lawler and Fish, we need to keep them happy. They're key young players that need to stay with us for a good 3 or 4 years. Well, let me tell you something, mate. In my opinion, Dylan Lawler will not be a Cardiff City player in 3 or 4 years. Enjoy him while you can. But I agree with you. The hope is that they'll be Cardiff City's centre-back pairing for the next 10 years. But, I think, let's be honest, we'd have to get to the Premier League for that to happen. Graham says, hopefully Ashford understands the reason for being subbed. Yeah, I hope so, mate. And I would hope that either the manager or the coaching staff sat him down and spoke to him properly after the game and just said, look, we had to do this, blah, blah, blah. Because in fairness to the manager, it did work having Salic in that deeper role, but it was puzzling at the time. But look, sometimes you've got to do what you've got to do to win. And at the end of the day, it's just what you've got to do is win games. So Martin's got interested when he said, I thought Robinson should have been subbed. Actually, I don't disagree with that, mate. I thought that international break came at the worst time for Callum because he was on fire before the break. He was scoring goals, and a couple of times yesterday, he should have pulled the trigger on the edge of the box on his right foot, and he didn't. And that's like that confidence thing. Before the international break, I think he just hits that without even thinking. So hopefully he gets another goal soon. And he can kind of get that belief and the confidence because they're playing on instinct. He's our best finisher. D1 says the midfield issues, i.e. no one at home. It reminds me of Wales at the moment. Yeah, 100%, mate. But my argument, much like my argument is with Wales, you have to use the tools that you have available. Craig Bellamy refused to use Jordan James for a while and has refused to use other players in midfield that he could to make the team a bit more compact and stable in the transition and whatnot. But also, those players are able to press and to win duels and do the things he wants. So there's nothing wrong with having a bit of stability. It's particularly, every team now looks to be, when they win the ball back in the transition, they look to hit you hard and direct. Every team does it. It's literally the game plan of all teams. They train it in the transition, go like 3 or 4 players running beyond because they want to catch you out of position. Is why you've got to be quick when you win the ball back. So I don't think there's anything wrong with a small tweak. It's a small one. But Alex Robertson is a player who's signed to Cardiff City, who's fit. Use him. And if we ain't going to use him, then you got to use or have Mafiko on the bench at least. Do we think, because the manager didn't bring on Ryan Wintle, do you think he was just giving him a complete break? Or do you think he has seen in recent weeks, in recent games, that Turnbull and Wintle cannot play together, so he decided against it? And being really fascinated, I'd love to ask him that, really, because it's clear they can't play together, but I was surprised that Wintle didn't come on towards the end to see the game out. Brad Barry says, in fairness to BBM, he indicated it was on him making the wrong sub. Yeah. I like that I like that the manager is he's brave and he'll make substitutions that he thinks are going to impact the game. I think that's really important in a manager, particularly when you play in a certain style in a certain way. So for me, I think it's really important. And, hopefully Keane will understand, and I'm sure he'll come back and hopefully prove a point the next time he plays. And Ryan says you need to praise Ronan positionally yesterday. Very, very good. His energy levels and linking up down the wing, sensational. Yeah, I thought it was a real complete performance by him, mate. And I know, people will pick apart certain aspects of it and say, oh, he gave the ball away here and there. You simply, the majority of players on the football pitch are not going to have 100% pass completion rate. It's just not going to happen. The ones that normally come close to the high percentages are the centre backs, not ours actually, because we go diagonal. They tend to be the ones who play the diagonals. But your number 6, because he's constantly recycling it. Those type of players but I thought Kipakio was excellent. Graham says Savage looked good for them. Yeah, I know. Me and Reese we did a scout report on Charlie last summer and said we should have tried to sign him when he was out of contract. And he's still someone I would be keen to have a look at. And if we're not going to integrate Robertson into the squad, we've got to maybe look at some midfield options. I still stand by Gyabi would have been the guy, what an impact he would have had, but can't keep going on about that. Oh, the bottom of that glass is dirty. Alan says play Osho in midfield with Capaccio and NG, Lawler and Fish. Yeah. I'd like to see it in one of the cup games. Yeah, Wing was excellent. Lee says, at the end, I noticed Robinson did a early lap to thank the fans. Then it was top off down the tunnel. He didn't seem happy. I'm not sure, mate. I didn't see, but he didn't have his best game when he came on, but he worked hard and he did try to impact the game. I think he was frustrated because I think in his head he would have known he should have pulled the trigger. There was one, it really opened up for him and he kind of held it and waited and then passed it. And yeah, and then there's the other side of it. Maybe he was disappointed to be on the bench after scoring a couple recently. But I thought it was the right game to play Salic as well. Martin says, is Osho trying too hard at home? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Reese says, there was an incident yesterday with Capaccio, I think, in front of the linesman. The linesman doesn't give a foul, but the ref over the other side of the pitch decides it is one. Linesman flags goes up, ref continues. Yeah, the refereeing standards, mate, are a joke. You could, yeah, like Jonathan says, Osho looks nervous and doubting his ability. Booing him is not going to help. He needed to play versus Newport to get out. Yeah, I agree with that. He should have played against Newport. I also think he's a human being as well. Of course, it's in his issue. Of course, it's going to be in his head. And we need to do what we did to Mafiko when Mafiko went off after half an hour on his debut. You need to get behind him and rally behind him and really show him that the fans are behind him, because if he's in a blue shirt, I'm behind him as far as I'm concerned. Stephen says, take Osho out of the back line and give him a chance at number 6. I'm sure it will work. I genuinely think it would, mate, but not a manager. He's done it before as well. Osho played at 6, and he's done it well. Paul says, BBM made changes, took Osho out. Previous managers would have carried on playing Osho, but it was the right time to take him out. Yeah, you have to. Halftime Oranges says, Osho will come good eventually. Perhaps needs a sports psychologist to address any confidence concerns. There's one there, mate, available to him. So Corey says, you can't just chuck him in the midfield there. In cup games, yes. But Wintel's been superb and so far contender for the player of the season. I think Wintel's been very, very good. I don't think he's anywhere near player of the season, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, though. I think like Trott, Bagan, Lawler, a few others maybe. But he's been very, very good, mate. Very consistent. And I think you showed yesterday that he helps keep the tempo high as well because he recycles the ball quick. Louise says, well done, City, top of the league. Keep it up, we'll go far. And she says, this is called poker face football. Act crap and then pound your opponent. So Jamie says, what gets me is City have the possession, and yet the opponents are having 14 to 26 shots against us. Why is this even possible? Well, I think there's 2 reasons. The main one is we're so open in the transition, and that can happen when your fullbacks push high anyway. But when you've got the 2 central midfielders alongside the 6, basically playing alongside the strikers, you lose that ball, you're outnumbered. And teams which have got a game plan like Reading, where they're going to, as soon as they win the ball back, they're going to stream forward in numbers, you're in trouble, which is why I mentioned the tweak. And the other thing is, because we have so much possession, teams do tend to take a lot of shots from like around the edge of the box. But I think I haven't looked, I bet you I would be shocked if Reading's XG was not quite high yesterday. Let's have a look. Cardiff City 2, Reading 1, XG. I'd be very shocked if it's not really high, Reading's XG, because they had some good chances. God, look at all those shots. Oh, wow. So that's interesting. So our XG from 11 shots was 0.14. Reading's XG from 26 shots was 0.07. That means that we created more clear-cut chances and more chances that are usually scored. So that is fascinating because from the eye test, I would have said it was the other way around. But we are definitely getting away with it. And I think that's why I think the manager has got to just tweak it slightly. JT doesn't agree about Osho in the 6. I think his pace and his athleticism would be a big part of it. And I think also his ability, like he does have this thing where he drops a shoulder and then goes away from his man, which is another good one for the for that position. Not saying that it might not work, but he's done it before and he's done it well. I just don't want to see him in centre back. Yeah, I mean, if Sheffield Wednesday, I'm not sure if McAnish says if Sheffield Wednesday go into administration, does that bring Hovarth back? I will check that, mate, because I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, he's going to be third choice anyway, isn't he? Because Jack Alnwick, I think, has gone home for a bit. Rena Mota or Rawls do not have a club, mate. Joe had a couple of offers, which he didn't take. Neither one as a club. And to be honest with you, and this is just my opinion, I don't think we should sign either one. But that's just my opinion. Although Louise just says Joe signed for Aldershot. I don't think he did. Thought he turned them down. That was the last I had heard, but I haven't spoken to anyone about that for a couple of weeks. Yeah, like Lewis, you've hit the nail on the head there. Willock in the second half bottled out with 2 50-50s, and it nearly cost us a goal. However, what I will say to him is he did work hard defensively, and also just before he sort of bottled out the second one, someone stood on his heel, and you could see he was in a lot of pain, and he kind of come off not long after that. But I do agree with you, mate. There's nothing worse than seeing. There was a couple where like the ball broke, and you thought if he had been anticipating and going for it, he'd have been able to go, like, you know. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm gonna give Jeff his shirt when he comes over. Yeah, so Joe Rose didn't sign for Aldershot. He started his career there, and he trained there, but he didn't sign a contract there. I thought so. I wouldn't take either, mate. McAnee says, what about Reno? I wouldn't take either at the moment. I don't think they fit the way we want to play. And there are people who are getting, and me included, saying about like the tempo, and I think both of them would give us the same sort of issue that I'm talking about in terms of being too slow, moving the ball and stuff. And don't get me wrong, you know, Joe Rose was a fantastic servant to Cardiff City. I thought it was the right time for him to move away from playing for us. If he wanted to stay as a coach or whatever, that was fine with me. But Corey says, I don't know what put it in my head, but I was thinking about O'Dowda being in this team as a manager like Bagan, so O'Dowda could play forward. He'd be excellent in this team. Problem is, mate, O'Dowda doesn't want to play on the wing. Well, although I should say that was what was said last year. That's what Omar said when I went up to see him, that O'Dowda wants to play left back because he doesn't want to play wing anymore because he doesn't think he's got the legs for it. But then when he went to whichever team he went abroad, I'm sure he played left wing in his first game, so that was weird. And you can't blame him, like John says there, like O'Dowda's mates with Robbie Keane. That's his manager at his new club, and you can't fault him for wanting to play Champions League football before. Daniel DJ7 says, can't lie, Cardiff fans were shocking yesterday. I only heard them after they scored. There's definite anxiety, mate, about with Osho. I think there's definitely like that. Not blaming it on Osho, just saying that there's this like general anxiety, and a little bit about Chambers as well. But I just want to see us play with tempo and pace. I would like to see us. I always think we got to have one winger like a Willock or an Ashford who's going to cut in and find little pockets of space, but can go on the outside. And then on the other side, I really want to see someone who's like direct and pacey. And I think Kellyman will be that as well as Isaac. So, you know, hopefully. Yeah, I agree with that, Geraint. He says Ronan's got Premiership written all over him. Him and Lawler, I think we got to, like, the other side of not getting promoted this year, as much as I want us to be patient and build with these youngsters, is there's a couple of them who will be picked off. And in League One, they won't go for massive money. Find a way to win. Just find a way to win. Right, my voice is going. Corey says, I swear you know my granddad's side. Nigel Thompson's his name. I'm not sure, mate. I'm terrible with names. You'd have to send me a picture. Maybe. Probably. I know a few Nigels. But I'm not sure, mate. And look, Stevenage losing was a big result for us. We got to just got to win. Game at a time, just win. Just find a way. Don't care if it's 1-0, slogfest, or we batter teams. We have to find a way. It's just a win. Just find a way to keep winning. And I'm hoping the manager will make a little tweak in the midfield to make us a little bit more secure on a transition. So 5 things we learned will be out tomorrow lunchtime. And I'm working on doing a couple more episodes of Inside the EFL. If you haven't watched it, please do watch the Inside the EFL episode, which I dropped yesterday with Joe Jacobson, who's the co-CEO of Reading. I went up to Reading's training ground and had a little tour and had a sit down. But I'm hoping to get into. I'm already speaking to a couple of other clubs, and maybe one day Cardiff will let me do it as well. But we go, and there's one which is I'm really hoping comes off. There's a small window where I might be able to make it happen. A former Cardiff City player who's a current manager in the EFL, and hopefully, because he's off at the moment, but I'm not sure yet. We'll see. But I'm hoping that we can get some more of those episodes. The reaction to the Jacobson one has been amazing. I had some messages from people at the club. I had some messages from people outside just saying how good it is. There was even randomly, like a Chelsea fan was in the comments this morning saying like what a great episode it was, and that was kind of cool because he's got no reason to watch it. He just came across it. So I appreciate it. I appreciate all the comments and everything. Thank you so much to everyone, especially for your patience as well. Like the lunchtime videos have been a bit hit and miss just because I haven't been very well, and then it was just had stuff on. But they're back now. It's just today. I got home so late last night. It was rough this morning, and then my son has football, and it's long. Radio tomorrow, please join me. If you've got digital radio where you work or whatever at home, you can listen on DAB, Newport City Radio, or you can listen on TuneIn Radio app, or you can listen on the website, newportcityradio.org. Good music, start the week off right. We play Guest of the Year. Support me. Why not? We'll just brighten up a Monday. And indeed, we got some interesting stuff. Reese and Rob are doing the guest shows on Tuesdays and stuff as well. There was a really good post-match reaction show last night as well. So please do check it all out. Support the channel. And if you're not subscribed, please make sure you are, because when you look at the percentages of viewers versus subscribers, there's still a lot of people who watch regularly and returning viewers, but they're not subscribed. Most of all, can I ask every single one of you to whatever social media platforms you have, WhatsApp group, whatever, just share the channel with people. Spread the word. A lot of work goes into it. We love doing it. But also we had a bit of momentum, and then the international break kind of killed us a little bit. So we want to get back up and running and really get it out and find as many Cardiff City fans as we do. Nobody else is doing what we do 7 days a week. And we try to be as balanced and fair as possible, and give good analysis as well. We try to. So as always, keep the faith. I will see you tomorrow morning for the breakdown. Maybe even a cup of tea with side tomorrow morning, perhaps. But and to all the South Wales Scousers on my social media who are crying, Alegi, in a bit. This channel is powered by an incredible membership community on Cardiff City World and patreon.com/AcePodcastNation. Becoming a member unlocks exclusive rewards from early access to live event tickets, bonus content, and even the occasional inside transfer scoop when we get it. But more importantly, it allows us to bring you top quality Cardiff City content 7 days a week. Across those 7 days, we're talking match previews, exclusive interviews, instant match reactions, the breakdown podcast, tactical deep dives, the Spotlight series, Bluebirds Rewind, Academy Focus, and just so much more. Led by myself, backed by an army of passionate Cardiff City fans, this is content created by fans for fans. Balanced, professional, and 100% all about the club we all love. If you enjoy what we do, then join the community today and support what we are doing as we help to keep Cardiff City World flying high.